Ooh. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Shuey and I am the founder of Happily. We are the largest and most diverse network of virtual event specialists in the country. It's really cute because I actually used to tell a lot of people, like, pre everyone getting woke, which is so great, that we were the most diverse network in the country, and people were like, that's cute, Sarah. And now everyone understands like how important and exciting that is, that we are helping everyone like actually just like innovate and become better event producers. So every Wednesday at 2 p.m. PST, I jump into my LinkedIn page, as well as to Happily YouTube Live, to have a conversation with a friend and a colleague about something that relates to specifically the virtual event space, and just help educate everyone and level up everyone as fast as we can in this crazy new world that we are in. And today I'm really excited about our guest, who is Josh Grimes, and he's someone that I met while sponsoring a learning series for MPI, which is Meeting Professionals International, and their independent and small business owners community. So Josh's town hall, he did a town hall. Josh is an expert in, a legal expert in the meeting space, and his town hall that he did for the MPI folks was by far and away the most popular event that we had in the series. It was so popular, in fact, that we actually had to do a part 1 and a part 2, and they're like asking for even a part 3. So I'm really, really grateful that Josh is spending some time with us today to tell us a little bit more about the legal considerations that we'll need to make with this virtual event land. So I'm just gonna bring you up. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Sarah. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, and you're in Pennsylvania, is that right?
I am, yes. Right outside of Philadelphia. My office is in Philadelphia, but because of we're still in the COVID phases, so I'm switching between my office and here.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about like your background, and how did you fall into like, or get into focusing on the meeting space?
Sure. Well, I've been doing that, my practice, which is focused on meetings and events and association practice, for about 24 years now, which seems hard to believe. And I got into it. I started practicing law at some big law firms, and then I went and worked for the mayor of Philadelphia, who became governor of Pennsylvania, Ed Rendell, who was opening the Pennsylvania Convention Center, and got me involved in that, and with a number of tourism initiatives and hospitality initiatives. Then when I left him, I decided to open my own practice. At the time, I was told I wouldn't be able to make it specializing in meetings and events, but here I am, however many years later, and I actually started on the hotel side and switched over because I found more demand for my services from planners. So now I'm working in better times in terms of the economy and non-COVID times, more with contracting and dispute resolution and figuring out proper attrition damages and things like that, helping planners develop contracts. To now, I've been spending for the last 3 months, it seems like, every day working on meeting cancellations, reschedulings, virtual meetings, and everything that, and also revising and updating contracts. Here we are.
Yeah, I'm curious to know. Yeah, I think that like actually the questions in the town hall were almost entirely like squarely on the cancellation piece, which has just been a disaster. Yeah. I think for everyone. How do you think it's like netting out, like overall on average? Is it leaning towards the side of the hotel? Is it like going more on for the clients? Like, what are you seeing?
Well, this is where I'm supposed to say the clients that hire me are finding that they're doing great with it. In reality, there's a mix. I think at first the hotels were, by and large, being very difficult about cancellations, and there was a reason for that. because all of a sudden their business, like a lot of people, their business dried up, and they were leaking money and future business, and they needed to put a stop. So they were tough about it. And particularly meetings that canceled too early, meaning you had an October meeting and in March you're saying we have to cancel because of COVID. Well, at that point, hotels were still open. You could still fly. The CDC wasn't saying you shouldn't meet and get in groups, so it was too early to invoke a force majeure clause. Then hotels started closing, governments prohibited mass gatherings or group gatherings, and it became easier to invoke. Now we sort of have an understanding. By the way, the other thing is groups were quick to, hotels would say, don't cancel, reschedule. And what we're facing now is some are rescheduled quickly for September. And now what do they do in September when we may still have some of this around? So there's been now I think there's sort of an understanding. I think that it is tough, and I don't blame hotels. Look, if you can still meet, if you have a meeting in Las Vegas, they're open. Why should they let your group cancel? That doesn't mean you can't cancel or reschedule. It just means that you need to know how to make the argument, and you also need to demonstrate that there's a reason. It could be your attendees aren't going to show up. That may be the reason, but you can't just, you have to document it somehow. So this is kind of where we are. And virtual meetings, it's, as you know, it's become a thing. I just did, and believe it or not, a webinar for political consultants yesterday about doing virtual political fundraisers on the internet. So everybody's adopting to it.
Yeah, no, we've been seeing that as well. Even like at Happily, we actually have a volunteer, I've never seen this before, but like a volunteer force of virtual event producers who are like, how can we help like set up community events to take back the White House? And it's been, it's really cool to see that that's happening, but there's so many questions. I mean, a lot of these virtual event producers, a lot of them have never even done anything within the political space. Mm-hmm. So actually, I'd be curious to know, even just for our team, as we help support different organizations to get out the vote, like what are things that we should be considering?
Well, they're political. They're really not that much different from other things. Of course, if you're fundraising, there's a little different. But people like what I tell you is people like the to and fro, the exchange with the candidates. And by the way, I should say I'm a township commissioner, and in an hour I have a public meeting that we're conducting via Zoom of our board of commissioners. So we do the same sorts of things. But people they don't just want to hear a lecture from a public official. They want to ask questions. So you need to tell your participants, your picture, your face, your voice may be on this broadcast, this political event, and it may be copied, and we may rebroadcast it, put it on the candidate or the public official's website. And by the way, you're going to release us from any harm that might come if someone takes a snippet, takes your picture, and uses it and says that, Josh is a member of Antifa or something like that. I can't sue the person who put together the event. Similarly, candidates ought to understand that they're being recorded, and anything they say can be used at various points. Then if you have people sponsoring, like I might give a certain amount to the event and I'm going to be a sponsor. Well, what kind of exposure am I getting? Am I going to be mentioned at the beginning, the end? So there's all sorts of things to think about. It seems simple, but people, especially if it's an online fundraiser, people have expectations about how they'll be treated, and sometimes political people aren't necessarily as advanced as others in these things, unless they're using Happily.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, no, I mean, because I've been wondering, I'm like, how do we, on the technical side of things, like stop people from re-recording? It's just really impossible.
And people ought to understand that going in.
Yeah.
And this keeps happening to elected officials. They think they're talking, frankly, in person meetings. They think they're talking and nobody's going to record it or hear them. Now we know people do it all the time, and they have to have that expectation, but it's the public. So if I'm the candidate and you're participating and you're asking me questions like you are now, you should understand that your face and your voice may also become part of this. And
Yep.
that's sometimes what people don't realize.
Yeah. I mean, and the deep fakes these days are so good. And, we saw like Melania Trump's like commencement speech just like get diced up, with like different captions and music. And the reality of that is, let's just say that happens to a person and to an attendee. Like, what are their rights?
Well, if you have a disclaimer, then they probably have no rights. Mm-hmm. So if I put it up on YouTube or if I put it on my website as a public official and someone takes it apart and uses snippets for things, you're probably out of luck. But I would say if you don't want that to happen, don't consent, and maybe they won't use your name and your image. And it is possible to do web events that aren't going to be put out there in the public also. So in fact, I would suggest if I were doing a certain kind of political event and I don't want it out there, I'll just make sure it's not, I can't prevent someone from standing there with a phone and recording the whole thing. But beyond that, it may not, I wouldn't put it out there.
Is it enough like so I have like a film background and like sometimes it's run and gun, they say is like you just sort of like go in for it. And when you don't have like the tick box disclaimers or it is a public event and like you want people to share and folks are just like hopping in, how do you control that? Like I think in film, what we used to do is we used to just sort of say or have a slot, we used to just say to people like or have like a caption like underneath. Sometimes I'm seeing that in live streams where it's like you will be recorded. Does that actually cover you?
It helps. It does. It helps. And I suppose if I put something on YouTube and someone objects, I could always fuzz out their face, although that kind of that sort of harms maybe the overall impact of the event. If you were doing a regular event, like if we're doing a regular virtual event, I always tell people if you're going to register, people register, they have to check a box that has a disclaimer that says they understand that the group that hosts the webinar or the Zoom meeting or whatever the technology, they understand that it's going to be put on like the Happily website, maybe put on YouTube, and they understand their name, their voice, their image might be used for any purpose, might be taken by someone else without permission, and that they're not going to come back at Happily or the event sponsor for doing that. One other thing it's important to say, because sometimes I've even seen people have artwork in the back. Now I have something right here. That artwork may belong to someone. Maybe it's a famous painter. Well, that may get used as well. Or someone may have a different kind of background and, picked family pictures. People do all sorts of stuff these days, and they should understand there's no privacy at all.
There's been like a lot of The Office backgrounds, like they have plenty to collect on, I guess, if they have a case for that. Here's a situation. So actually I was like talking with a experienced designer and they based in a virtual event, which was kind of like part like escape room, part performance piece based off of a true life story. And they had asked me like they're like, oh, can you help produce it? Or we started talking about co-producing, and they're like, can you sign off on our IP agreement? And I was like, well, what IP do you have? And while we're on this like conversation about IP, like, do you have the story rights to this person's life? So I actually started to think through like in the moment of like all of the like film world legal considerations, which gets, those contracts are like stacks of documents. Curious to know like if and how you're thinking about that for the virtual space.
Well, it's really the same thing. So when you have an in-person speaker, it's easy because you sign your speaker agreement. maybe you're going to record the speaker, but he or she will tell you that I don't want you recording it. I do want you recording it. You'll work that out. Sometimes people don't think about, now we have a virtual meeting. I'm taping someone's presentation. They may have copyright, especially if it's a professional speaker or a celebrity. They may have a copyright interest in that presentation, and you need to get their written permission to use their presentation. However, if you want to put it on your website, put it elsewhere in the public, anywhere that you're going to use it. If you want to use snippets of it, also. And by the way, and you bring up an excellent point, it's not just speakers you hire. If you're showing film clips, there's the MPLC, which is the Motion Picture Licensing Corporation, that you have to contact to get permission to use film clips. And I've actually done that. I've done presentations for MPI and PCMA that involve parts of film clips with legal issues, and parts of movies that might have a legal theme. And I have used them in a presentation, and we've discussed what is the legal issue for meetings. Well, to use those film clips, I had to get a license and pay several $100s to MPLC for the permission to use the clips. Same with images. If I'm using a Zoom background that has a picture, well, is that picture owned by a photographer who now is going to come after me, or maybe come after the event host for unauthorized use of their image? So there's all sorts of, and music is another one. I shouldn't skip that. If you're using music, you should have the right to use that music, and that's ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, those performing rights societies. What I found is that everyone rushed to virtual meetings when in-person were canceled, but not everybody thought about all of these implications. And unfortunately, now I'm getting calls because it's coming back to bite people. I guess that was to be expected, but now, unfortunately, people learn a lesson.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then what about hosts and their rights? And we put like a code of conduct, and I saw that you also really, recommend that. But what are like some of the like most important things that people need to include? First of all, everyone should have a code of conduct for a regular event or a virtual event, right? But what are the things that you think are like essential to include inside this code of conduct?
Well, okay, you're exactly right. In-person meetings, everyone has gotten used back. We can think back to 3 months ago when we weren't doing COVID all the time. Because of issues with sexual harassment, we started talking about codes of conduct for in-person meetings. Same thing for virtual meetings. So what language is appropriate? And I don't mean English, Italian, German. Can people curse? Can you use a chat box and curse? Prohibitions against online sexual harassment, predatory behavior. So Sarah, I see your name on here. I don't want someone going online afterwards and Googling you and starting to find your Instagram account and, DM. Yeah, stalking you. Thank you. That should be prohibited. Really anything. Is there a particular attire that's expected for an event? So some groups I see, believe it or not, they want, ties for men on there because they have a certain level of ambiance. I don't see that a lot, but frankly, my public meetings, government meetings, we do that because we're on the East Coast where people still wear ties.
Optional, right? Like, or is it like these clubs where you can't wear tennis shoes to get in? Like, it's the same idea for virtual.
Yeah, I've seen that. Wow. Because they have a certain level of the certain tenor of the meeting. So really, anything that you want to regulate so that you don't have bad behavior. Some groups have said no Zoom backgrounds because they don't want to get into someone's accidentally using a picture that's owned by a photographer who's going to come after the meeting host later. So I've seen all sorts of things, and really anything that you want to have, you should put in there as a condition. And if someone violates it, well, either if the meeting's over, maybe don't let them participate the next time, or you can take them off even while it's going on.
Yeah, and it's probably good in some way to document that, like back to, do you write an email back to them and say, like, just so you know, you violated this?
Well, you should tell someone, particularly if they can't do it. And by the way, also maybe no personal recording of the event, of
Right.
the virtual meeting. That's another one. But yes, I haven't seen so far, because most people I work with don't have me on their virtual meetings unless I'm presenting. So I haven't seen them actually enforce it during the meeting, but I have seen groups say someone can't participate the next meeting because they stalked people on the Zoom call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super, super wild times we're in.
You know what? You hang around with lawyers. I wish I could tell you people call me when everything's great, but this is what I get called for.
Cool. So is there anything else that, like, I forgot that's like a really, big things to know with virtual and legal?
Sure. Well, sort of two things. Sponsors and exhibitors, if you have online exhibitors, make sure that they have a realistic expectation of what it is they're buying for their sponsorship. So some sponsors, you might advertise that Happily has 500 people on this presentation, and maybe more. So I don't mean to give you short shrift.
It's
So
like, Josh.
what's that?
It's just
Well, I heard you. Okay. So you said 5,000. So if someone sponsors based on that and only 50 are there, that sponsor may be disappointed and wants some money back. So it's important to say to them, we don't guarantee a minimum or a maximum number. Where are they going to be in the program? Before, afterwards? Are they do they have an expectation that even if the program has 5,000 people, all 5,000 will be on when they're mentioned? What kind of mention are they going to get? If there's a computer glitch or a Wi-Fi glitch and no one's around to see their sponsorship because of a technical glitch, I would say they shouldn't get money back, but you should have that in your agreement with them. And the same with exhibitors. Where in the program will they be placed? What kind of recognition are they going to get? Now, the other thing is with your tech providers. So, and this can be everyone from Happily to whoever's doing the wireless, setting up the internet. What are they guaranteeing you? What if they make a mistake? Are they going to be responsible to you? And how will they be responsible? And if I were the tech provider, I would put, we're going to use our expertise, but we can't guarantee that there won't be some glitch because the internet goes out momentarily or something to that effect. So really the bottom line is any understanding you have should be put in, I'm not going to say in writing because we're meeting virtually, but in print, and everyone should have realistic expectations. That's really the important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, with a lot of the tech right stuff, even with Zoom, it's like, what can you do? You are subject to their terms and conditions. So also just doing your homework and reading what your rights are, as it relates to these providers, I think is something that's important and also really useful when you have a professional to help you understand and dissect what all of this means. Because I think a lot of folks, they're learning about the web.
Yeah, and remember also that I think that as much as virtual meetings have really taken off on their own, for many groups, this is an interim measure that when people can meet in person again, they want their sponsors and exhibitors to come along with them. So It's not a one and done. So you don't want to, and your attendees, you don't want to annoy them or do a poor quality job in your virtual meeting. Because if you don't do a good job, then you're going to lose your members, lose your sponsors and exhibitors.
Yep. Okay, so we're at the 5-minute mark, and I always close with a game. And the game is something that I made up, and it's basically like good name, bad search. So like I looked up your name, Josh Grimes, and then I found somebody else that also has your name. And I don't know actually if you know this person, but this is Grimes.
Yes, that's Elon Musk's girlfriend, right?
That's right.
I don't think they're married. See, I'm old, but not that old.
You're cool. You're old and cool.
I wish I could tell you she's related to us.
Is she really? She's not related to you.
No, she's not.
Okay, well, anyways, I thought that it would be fun to see, like, do a little trivia game, like, down the rabbit hole of, like, what do you know about Grimes?
There you go. Oh, about her? Almost nothing.
Yeah. Check it out. So, first question, how do you say Grimes and Elon's baby name?
Oh, I have no, what is it?
It is in yellow.
XAA12 or something. What is it?
Yeah, it's close. It's XAA12.
Okay. I was close, right?
Pretty close.
Now, if I had gotten everything right, would I get a Tesla from you?
Not a Tesla. Maybe I'll get you a Tesla keychain.
There you go. Yes. Well, I've lost already.
People would take that.
That's
Oh,
right.
actually, then yes. Sorry, let's just make the loss even harder. What is Grimes's real name?
Oh wow. Am I allowed to have a lifeline on this?
Yeah, if you want.
My wife's over there. Do you know?
A, Elise, B, Claire.
I'm gonna say it's Claire.
Oh, well done. It is Claire. Yeah. Awesome.
My wife Randy is giving me help now.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yes.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Last question. What is Grimes' first album name? Is it Geedy Primes, Grimes, or Oblivion?
I'm gonna say I'm gonna guess Oblivion.
It's Geedy Primes. Oblivion, I think, was a song on that. Go ahead.
I'm gonna blame this on, they just had the baby, like what, 2 weeks ago, and I've been so busy dealing with virtual meetings and cancellations with COVID, including doing presentations with you, Sarah, that I just haven't had a chance to catch myself up on this gossip.
Well, you know what? Like, you can listen to Grimes like over dinner tonight. It's pretty groovy and feel like a little bit closer. Thank you so much, Josh Grimes, for being here. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, and I thank you for having me on with your group. Can we give my email address in case anyone's looking or
go ahead? Yeah,
way to find me. So my office is Grimes Law Offices, and you can find me on LinkedIn, on all over the internet. And my email address is grimesj at grimesj@grimeslaw.org. GRIMESLAW.org. So if you just do Grimes, not the Grimes J, you'll get Elon Musk's Grimes.
Yeah.
The J.
Josh,
there you go. That works.
You really do well on your Google indexing. So it's easy if you Google Grimes, and I'm pretty sure you're up on your website.
And I have to thank you for not mentioning the other Josh Grimes, if you Google, who went to jail.
Oh, no, I didn't. I mean, Grimes was just much more fun to play with.
It is, but I was afraid you were bringing that guy up, who I have to say also is no relation.
I had a feeling because I usually do show 3 different Josh Grimeses and then ask you to guess their profession, but you got lucky. I mean, you have a superstar in your orbit.
Well, I hope she's saying the same thing about me.
Thanks again, Josh, and everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, find the real Grimes, Josh on LinkedIn. Give him a follow and continue the conversation about law and virtual events with Josh.
Thanks. Everyone, stay well.
Okay, bye. Well, that was fun and very informative. It was like rapid fire. I love lawyers for this. It's like they are like so good at answering the questions and like getting through it. Thanks again to Josh for coming. Next week, actually, I'm going to be having a conversation with Karen Busen from Farewelling, which is a site that's about to launch soon. And it's going to be a really beautiful conversation. I'm not going to tell you too much about it because I think it's one that will be more special if we wait. So Thank you again for joining us. I hope to see you next week, and also actually tomorrow, Thursday at 5 p.m. PST, we are opening up our Happily Hours, and we're going to have a special musical performance from Jensen McCrae, as well as a wellness boost with two beautiful, young, powerful Black women. We're so excited to be supporting them. We want you all to come and join us in that and give them lots of love. And also just they're going to give us back so much openness and perspective. So make sure to RSVP on happily.io/learning for our Happily Hours. That's tomorrow. So maybe I'll see you tomorrow. And if not, I'll see you next week. Bye.